used. You can then have a look at when does it really come into picture. So basically in the context of, again, the software development, because that's what we're trying to look at. There are two aspects to it. One is the internal aspect of it within the team, within the organization. And the one is basically about the external aspect of the customers, the users, and the stakeholders. So wherever you've got any aspect of an irregular flow of work, that is work coming in, but then it's not coming in through regularly or consistently, or there's work coming in, but it's not getting executed by the teams in the same way, in the same speed, right? That is definitely an indication for you that perhaps you need to have a deeper look at how you can structure the flow of work, and then how each of the size of work. And that's why it doesn't really work on its own by its own merit, but it really fits in beautifully with Scrum, because in Scrum we have what we call as story points, right? So we do story point, we do estimate the work in the context of the size of work within story points. So we can do 80 story points within this time box or within the sprint of 3 weeks. That's our capacity. And then we can actually try and work structure alongside. So that's how we can really look at how we can size the work, look at the productivity or the velocity of the teams, and then be able to plan our work accordingly. So again, that's the beauty of Kanban working with Scrum in the context of how they can work together in, hand in hand. And similarly, we've got different classes of service. It's not just one, but if you have got a product development to be done, okay, there's a product that is already there, you're working on that, you're making sure that you are improving that. And then the CRM system I was talking about. And on the top of it, you want to develop a website which would help as a front ending to your Salesforce, for example. So that's another completely new development work. And perhaps throw it into the mix of, let's say, you want to have 3 other products that you want to purchase from the market. So you have got 5 different products or pieces of work in the same time. One is a maintenance piece of work, another one is a new product development work, and a third piece of work is basically you're acquiring and basically the merging and acquisition of the products that are already there in the market. So how would you actually structure your work across these different streams and different completely unrelated activities? And that's again where Kanban could really come into help. And then back to this one, the work item type. Even this work item itself could be different, right? For example, within the Scrum, we know that it's the story. Each story is one type of a work item. A user story is the way how you define the work within Scrum. It could be a defect in some other project, right? There are a lot of defects already, and you're trying to fix the defects. So basically, the second type of maintenance project could be the work item there is not a user story, but it's a defect. A defect is how you would define a work item. And a third piece could be, for example, a change request, right? So even the work item, the basic work item has got differences. So that's again where you can really use Kanban effectively, because you're not forced to just use stories only or defects only. You can throw everything in there in the mix. And then you can actually track a lot of rework, because that's what we were talking about, right? How you can catch the defect early on, so you can try and minimize the rework later. So that's again another advantage with how you can try and put Kanban to use. And then in the context of external facing, when it comes to customers, the users, obviously you would get a lot of requests from the customers in terms of, I want this, I like this feature. So basically these are requests either for like a wish list of new features, new things that need to be developed, something like what Sonos product, if you have heard about Sonos, they're into the home theater kind of system, where you can extend your home theater with a lot of different products from Sonos. So they've got a play bar, they've got a small little play 1, play 2, play 3 different speakers, and they've got a woofer. So Sonos, what they do is they would actually they've got their own user forum. So if you buy Sonos product, you can actually add another one, play 1, play 2. So you can completely build a completely full-fledged, not only a home theater system, but also a home music system across the entire rooms. So they've got multi-room facility and all that. So that's the product, and that's the kind of line of business they are into, Sonos. So they have this user forum. So if you bought this, you say that I would like to have the Dolby system being played on this play bar, the play bar. It is not supporting now, but I would like to have. At the moment, it's DTS, for example. I want to have a better quality of sound coming in from these products. Why don't you give me a Dolby support as well? Or sometimes they say that people say that I would like to have a mesh for this speaker because it's not really robust. It is not reliable. The current one is not keeping up, not of good quality because I keep moving home. So make it really robust and solid. Try and use a proper iron mesh or something like that. So these are all the requests and the wish lists, as what we call, from the customers, the existing customers and users of your product. So all of that you're trying to get in, and you're actually trying to prioritize. If for example, thousands of people, because Sonos is a multinational corporation with its products available everywhere in the world, you've got millions of people asking for one request. Obviously, that means that it is a most wanted, most sought after feature. So Sonos would actually put that as, for example, Dolby support as the high up in the system. The prioritization, again, the Moscow system would come in. So that's how we can actually try and prioritize the requests from their customers and then make it as a feature for the product. And then you can work on that to deliver the feature in the next release, in the next few sprints. So again, Kanban would come into that picture in terms of requests, how you can line up the requests and look at the different customer feedback. And the batch size, the different batch sizes, again, how you're delivering the releases, how you're delivering the products in the form of the sprints, the work batches, all of that would come in. And availability of environment is another big factor, because in the context of software development, we've got, I think we keep talking about this, right? We've got at least three or four of these different types of environments when it comes to a software development. So we've got what we call as a development environment, where the developers, the designers, the team would actually work on the product in that environment, deployed there. And then from here, once it's in a good shape, that gets moved into the next environment, the second one, which is a test environment. So that's where the testers would actually come in, check the build, make sure they crash it, and then they try and rip that apart, try and find all the defects, the bugs, and then they start logging the defects based on that build in the test environment. A third one is basically what we call the production environment, or the live environment. So basically, this is what the customers, the end customers, the users across the world would actually get to see. So that's the publicly available environment, which is live. Obviously, once it goes into live, we can't change it because it's already being accessed by some people. So it's good because we've got a separation of concerns. We can always try and test some new features. For example, Sonos wants to test the Dolby feature. What they do is they first develop it. The developers would first try and have a go. They try and develop it and then put it into the test instead of actually going directly into the live. The testers would then be able to test it for performance, for security, for safety, for reliability, all these other things, right? Not just functional. They'll do all these kind of things. They'll do hacking. They'll make sure it is all security. It's all security tested. Everything is done. It's high performant. It's not affecting. It's regression tested. Everything is done. And then once they get the check that, yes, it's all good, then that gets moved into the production, into the live environment, wherein people like me, you, and everybody else could actually kind of get to see and feel and experience the Dolby experience with the play bar. Yes, so that's the environments, which is important again in the context of Agile, because when we discuss DevOps sometime later, I'm going to talk about how you can actually try and cut across these different environments, how you can make it more and more seamless. So you don't have to really wait a long time, do a lot of effort to try and move the build from development environment to the test, and from the test environment to the production environment. So that goes smoothly, seamlessly with what we call as a pipeline in DevOps. So developers do not have to ask or depend on the installation of this or deploy this build for the infrastructure team, for example, or the operations team. They don't have to really depend on them. With the DevOps, it's straight through. So once the build is in a good shape, that it actually gets into it's tested, it's all good, there's no bug or defect, it's performing well, there's no effect, it's regression tested. So from the test environment, directly it gets moved into the production environment. So they don't have to really wait for days and months, like in the traditional Agile. Even in the Agile mode, it still happens. But with the DevOps, or what we call as no-ops environment, this movement of the build from the development through to the test to the production environment is really smooth and seamless and quick. So it's easy for the developers to actually do some quick work, improvements, bug fixes, updates, and then push it out to the end customers and users directly without wasting a lot of time, effort, and money in the process. And that's why we're getting these updates. Instead of 6 months, we're getting it almost every week, and they're all automatically deployed on the server, and then the builds will get taken by the product. So that's the beauty of DevOps. We'll talk about that in the next few weeks as well. Very, very interesting. And then ambiguity, and then there is another aspect of irregular flow. It could come from external as well, not just from the internal aspect, where we have talked about within the staff, within the team, there is flow of work happening in multiple ways and multiple different streams. So it's not consistent enough. It could happen with the external environment as well, where the flow is not really consistent from outside to within the team, and from within the team to the customers and users and the stakeholders. And then obviously there are other aspects of requirements not being clear. That's as we discussed earlier. If you do not catch the bug in the requirement stage and the cup stage, it would grow into a tiger, fully fledged prowling tiger, by the time it reaches the development and testing. So it's better to actually kind of catch it in the cup stage, in the early stage, and then make sure that you address that defect. And that's where we're talking about the failing fast. You fail fast with Agile, rather than you fail at the end after spending so much time and effort and money in designing, architecting, developing, and testing. Instead of that, if you can fail early, where you could catch it right in the early stage, in the requirement stage, you failed early. So you've actually kind of saved a lot of this money, time, and effort in the process. So again, that's where Kanban would really come into